Another month has come and gone in the basketball world, and while most of the attention goes towards the professionals battling it out on a nightly basis, it's time to shift our attention down to the next generation of stars by making another installment of my monthly mock draft series. It's important to stay up to date on how all of the top prospects are performing, and in doing so, there's no better way than through mock drafts, so you can see not only how these players stack up against each other, but where they could possibly be a good fit at the NBA level too. Obviously, we're too far away from the actual draft for these predictions to prove to be spot-on accurate, but for the time being they're here to show who is trending upward and who is trending downward in the eyes of NBA scouts, and the order that the teams will be picking in today is based on the current NBA standings. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching the games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, and three-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making today, since we're at the All-Star break, the Rising Stars game is tonight, and for it I like Tyrese Maxey to score over 10.5 points, Tyrese Halliburton to score under 9.5 points, and Jonathan Kuminga to score under 10.5 points. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of this video today, and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. Starting things off with the number 1 pick in the draft, the Orlando Magic select Jabari Smith from Auburn. Smith flew up draft boards early on, overtaking some popular names for that top spot, but by no means is he a lock to stay here in the long run. I just have him here by the slightest of margins. He's one of the youngest top prospects this year, yet he's also one of the most efficient shot makers in college basketball, and that, along with his ridiculous versatility as a defender, have him oozing with potential. Next up, with the second pick in the draft, the Detroit Pistons select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. There isn't any hotter prospect in college basketball right now than Chet Holmgren is, as he's been absolutely torching teams night after night lately. Over his last 12 games, he's averaging about 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, while shooting a ridiculous 65% from the field and 55% from 3 in that span. His combination of size as a 7-footer that can shoot as well as he can, handle the ball in transition, and dominate defensively had me thinking long and hard about putting him at number 1. So even though I don't have him at the top pick right now, there's plenty of time for these guys to cement themselves moving forward. Up next, with the third pick, the Houston Rockets select Paolo Banchero from Duke. For a while, this was seen as a top 3, but the longer we go on, the more it seems like Holmgren and Smith are pulling away from Banchero. He's still firmly in that number 3 spot, but there's been a growing worry about his struggles impacting the game outside of scoring. He's definitely a talented scorer, and his strong frame and size at 6'10" make him incredibly intriguing in that regard, but he's not necessarily great in areas such as defense and playmaking, and there have been games lately where he's had stretches that he just goes ghost, not making an impact. Still, someone with star potential worthy of top 3, but we are starting to see a few weaknesses pop up. Next up, with the fourth pick, we get a new name in the bunch as the Oklahoma City Thunder select Shaedon Sharpe from Kentucky. So the situation with Sharpe is incredibly interesting to monitor moving forward because it could shape the entire draft. Sharpe was actually the number 1 prospect in next year's draft class, but he signed on to begin with Kentucky early in this spring semester, and this semester he's only been expected to practice with the team. Then recently reports came out that he may actually be eligible for the 2022 NBA draft, and if he does choose to put his name into the draft mix in this year, then he instantly becomes one of the most intriguing players available. He is a 6'6" shooting guard that makes scoring the ball look so easy. He was literally the most efficient finisher around the basket in all of high school last year, even more so than the best big men. He's an elite athlete, and that kind of shot making will entice any NBA franchise picking in the lottery. Next up with the 5th pick, the Indiana Pacers select Jaden Ivey from Purdue. Ivey has continued to ascend in the college basketball world over the last month, averaging about 20 points per game over the last 30 days, and he's just such a fun player to watch. He's a ridiculous athlete that can start up a fast break from the second he touches the ball, and he just knows how to make the right play once that happens. Plus, many scouts seem to be under the belief that once he gets to the pros and out of Purdue's slow-paced system, he'll be able to thrive even more, so he could prove to be the perfect running mate alongside Tyrese Halliburton on the Pacers. Up next with the 6th pick, the Sacramento Kings select Keegan Murray from Iowa. Murray, quite simply, is one of the best scorers in the entire country, ranking 3rd in all of college basketball in points per game. At 6'8", he's got the size NBA teams love from their wings, and he also brings a level of strength and skill to overwhelm defenders in so many different ways. He's a natural-born scorer, comfortable of pulling up from all 3 levels, he finishes so well around the basket, and at 37% from 3, he's enough of a threat out there to keep defenses honest. Next up with the 7th pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Johnny Davis from Wisconsin. Davis is another player in the running for College Player of the Year this season as a shooting guard, averaging about 21 points and 8 rebounds per game. He's one of the best bucket getters in the country, but the one concern there may be with him is his inconsistent 3-point shooting. He's a tough competitor at the end of the day though, and that will always translate. Next up with the 8th pick, the Portland Trail Blazers, who now own the Pelicans pick, select Jalen Duren from Memphis. Duren may be the perfect example of a player limited by a college system more built for the professional style of play, but at the same time, he has slipped a tiny bit down draft boards because of his inconsistent performances. Needless to say, he's a freak of an athlete, he's 6'11" with a monstrous 7'6" wingspan, he's going to be an outstanding defender, and his mobility and agility as a big man will translate as an elite pick-and-roll threat at the next level. Up next with the 9th pick, the New York Knicks select TyTy Washington from Kentucky. Outside of a few minor injuries that he's suffered throughout the season, Washington has been sensational, exceeding all expectations. Before the injuries, he was playing smart, efficient basketball, producing at an impressive rate across the board as a playmaking point guard. He was shooting it well from 3, his creativity as a ball handler allowed him to get to his spots with ease, and his ability to serve as a combo guard that can score and pass when necessary would serve the Knicks very well because that's a position of need for them. Up next with the 10th pick, the Portland Trail Blazers select AJ Griffin from Duke. Griffin's season started slowly as he was recovering from a knee injury, but lately he's really been heating up, looking like the 5-star prospect that he came to Duke as. This is a draft with a ton of freakishly athletic prospects, and Griffin is as athletic as any of them at full strength, and when it comes to what kind of offensive game he brings, he's been compared to Jaylen Brown when he was early in his development, so that would definitely be worth a swing in the lottery for any team. Next up with the 11th pick, the Washington Wizards select Ochai Agbaji from Kansas. Agbaji is probably one of the safest selections in the lottery as an upperclassman who is NBA ready to serve as, at minimum, an impactful role player that can score in bunches. At worst, he can be a 3-and-D guy, but more realistically, he brings much more than that as a scorer that can create comfortably for himself and make 40% of his threes. Up next with the 12th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select Bennedict Mathurin from Arizona. I'm honestly so impressed with how many talented scoring guards there are in this class because Mathurin is genuinely just as good as quite a few names that I've already discussed today. He's slightly less efficient than the others though, and ultimately that's why he's at number 12 instead of being in the top 10. Next up with number 13, the Atlanta Hawks select Dyson Daniels from the G League Ignite program. Daniels has emerged as the best prospect in the G League Ignite this year simply by playing basketball the right way and proving he does what it takes to win. His production in terms of the numbers don't necessarily jump out at you as anything special, but just from watching their games, you see he's involved in so many of the little things that help them win, whether it be making the right pass, playing good team defense, and always being in the right place at the right time because he's just a smart player. And finally, with the 14th and final pick of the lottery, the Charlotte Hornets select Patrick Baldwin from Milwaukee. I still feel as though I'm a bit higher on Baldwin than most are, but that's just because he's forced to be in a role on a mid-major program that he's not necessarily suited for ideally. He has to be the go-to scorer for their team, taking tough shots all the time for them, and at the NBA level, he'll be much better off as a wing player, playing more naturally within the flow of an offense. His efficiency is worrisome this year, no doubt, but the context behind why it is what it is makes me more lenient to judge him not as harshly as others do, because he is a very talented player otherwise. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you want your favorite team to draft. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.